Entertainment news today. You're such a dragon gay. Everything sucks and it's no good. That comes out of Hollywood. But there's one place you can go to get all your news and info, and maybe even have a laugh or two. You know it's true. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark. All those bombs and flops, but need never stops. We will keep going through the night as we keep up the culture fight. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome to Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm Tom Connors. We got FCC Karaoke here with us. We did have Valiant Renegade for a second. He might be back. I know he's supposed to pop in and talk to us about this, but good evening, everybody. Welcome. How you doing, CC? How's Canada?
That's all right. I mean, we're almost
It's
at the end
Canadian?
of summer now. It's like it's teetering on the edge of 3 months of darkness and cloud and rain, but it's still sunny out. So we'll see. Just
Yeah,
by the time where shit starts to close down, and it's like, oh well, I gotta shut off the campsite water because it's all gonna freeze overnight. And
yeah, I
north.
hear you. So with that, let's say hello to everybody we got in the chat. How you guys doing out there? I see Goddess of Wind and D-Bud swinging around some wrenches. Got Ram Warrior. Many Dragon is here. FKHC 2005 is here. Alexander's here. Doba Fett's in the house. Corleone Rogue. Snortopupus. How you guys doing, Lombardi? Good evening, Deeple, and so many more I see filing in here. I seen Dara Brewer in here earlier. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing? Share out the link. Hit the like button. Let everybody know we're live. Hello, Jonathan and Bryant and Con. Wait, I got to do that right. Con! I've done better. But, yeah, so how's everybody doing out there? Let us know. I see Captain Palsy as well. How you doing, buddy? Jen and so many more. Hit that like. Share out the link. We got ActionCom sending in 5 buccarinos. Thank you for the tip, my friend. Says it seems all the entertainers that come up during the Bush years are falling away. Are you mean like dying, or just like, what do you mean falling away? You mean just not as popular anymore? But I mean, yeah, if
Shows
you mean
ending.
by, maybe. I mean, some have passed away, I'm sure. But that's just because that's how life goes. You kind of get old and die.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel old right now because
Right?
wow, the Bush years were that long ago now.
That's what I'm thinking here. That's why I think he means dead. So
Yeah, old and dead. It's true.
And I see we got some others coming in here. We got Melissa, we got Mark, Kenny Long's here. How you guys doing? Good to see you. Yeah, we was waiting to hear from Valiant, and because we got some stuff to talk about here when it comes to the FCC and Jimmy Kimmel. So we're gonna get into that. And here he is, my friend, Valiant Renegade. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how y'all doing?
So yeah, quite a day today, and a lot of people speculating around the whole events of Jimmy Kimmel. Now we haven't really broke into it all yet and what's going on, but
Yeah.
I brought you in because you actually posted something on X that is interesting. So I want to get to that. But there was also a new story that just came out. I don't know if you've seen it yet, where the Hollywood Reporter is trying to make excuses for Jimmy Kimmel. And boy, let me tell you what, I ain't seen so much dancing since the last time I was at a strip club. Because, there's some.
I saw.
Actually say.
Oh yeah,
what he
Rolling
meant
Stone.
was-
Yeah, they all had this. Yeah, we'll talk about this. I got Ron Coleman on the show later tonight. We're going to go through some of the legal ramifications of what may or may not come down the pike. But, the clip is out there for everybody to hear. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel, in no uncertain terms, was making it known that, the guy that shot Charlie Kirk was MAGA, and the MAGA people are just pretending it's not. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what the man said. Now look, first things first, because I've seen so many people reacting to this on, well, how come this channel? How come this guy? How come that guy? Well, because unless you're OTA, unless you're over the air, you're not regulated by the FCC. They have very specific guidelines. And it all depends on what you say.
Yeah. And it depends on how you say it and what you say. And that's the argument that article that I just brought up was trying to make. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it's, so when you say, well, Fox News said this, how come Fox News? Okay.
Yeah.
Fox News does not broadcast to an antenna on your television. It is not using the public airwaves. It is not regulated by the FCC. It is delivered by cable, just as sure as Netflix is delivered by streaming. Cable channels and streaming services are not regulated by the FCC. But if you broadcast like PBS, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, not Fox News, even the CW and on down the line, all your little local over-the-air television stations, you are renting those public airwaves. They're leased from the federal government, the taxpayer. So anyway, that's why this is a bit different thing,
So correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding was that because the airwaves are actually receivable transmissions.
Yes.
Whereas with cable, you're actually paying for something you plug in.
Yeah, it's a gateway you have to go through for cable. And that's exactly it, CC.
Yeah.
And this is the same stuff I learned in school when I had to get my license. And what you learn there is, anything that's over the broadcast, as you pointed out, over the waves, which would include broadcast television or radio. You are underneath these rules. They're not even really technical. They are rules. And we're going to get into it because I don't know if you've seen this yet, Valiant, but Brendan Carr of the FCC was on CNN here.
Again,
CNBC. I mean, sorry, not CNN. But yeah, I'm going to play just a little bit of this quick. So this is the head of the FCC right here, kind of explaining why this is a bit different than, what, say, Roseanne said even, or something that somebody on Fox News says, as opposed to somebody that's on an actual network. And what I think some people haven't been taken into consideration when Trump has been going after some of these, networks and stuff over what they've been doing and saying. So let's play a little bit of this clip here quick, and then we'll get more into this whole thing.
No, look, again, broadcast TV is different. We're on a cable show right now. You don't have an FCC license. You don't have an obligation to serve the public interest. Podcasts don't either. Stand-up comedians, whether they're on lots of forms of communications, don't. And Kimmel is free to do that. But if you have a broadcast TV license, that means that you have something that very few people have. And you're excluding other people from having access to that valuable public resource. And it comes with an obligation to serve the public interest. And again, over the years, there's been a rule in place at the FCC that local TV stations get to preempt programming that they don't think meets the needs of their communities. But recently, these national programmers, ABC, Disney, Comcast, NBC, they've been exercising outsized control and power over those local TV stations, and there's been no pushback. And this is a very significant moment because local broadcasters are now pushing back on national programmers for the first time that I can think of in modern history. And that's one of the things we want at the FCC. We want to empower local broadcasters that have the public interest obligation to push back on national programmers so that people have more choice.
Okay, so what he's getting at here real quick before I let you go hog wild on this. I mean, he's got a very good point here, and this is like we were just getting at. This is what we were pointing out. And it needs to be said that Sinclair and Nexstar, which are two companies that are going to probably come up in what you bring up, they are actually in the works right now to try and get a merger gone through with a company called Tegna.
Yeah, well, Nexstar is. I don't think Sinclair is involved.
Well, Sinclair
is
also
already
threw they threw their hat in the ring too, but I don't know where they're still in this situation. But so that does need to be said. So they do have some, business reasons to want to keep the FCC happy, let's say. But that being said, what I think Brendan is getting at here is that pressure was sent up from the bottom.
Yep.
To preempt the show. So first Nexstar and then Sinclair decided they were not going to show Jimmy Kimmel Live on their networks that they own that were ABC stations, which I don't know how many Sinclair owned, but they're the second biggest media company in the country.
I think
the other
they're the biggest. They're the biggest partner for ABC Disney, in my understanding.
I was going to say, I don't know, how many stations they got, but
I don't remember if Hearst is. I think Hearst. Well, no, Hearst may have a few, but I think Hearst has a lot of NBC stations. But Hearst, I think, still owns like 20% of ESPN or something from the ABC days. But no, Sinclair is enormous. I mean, between Sinclair and Nexstar, you're talking about.
And Nexstar has at least 30 stations that are ABC, and 3 of them are in the New York market alone. See, and that's where the FCC comes in with the market and how many. And that was another thing with the whole regulations thing, where I don't think this has a lot less to do with them wanting to merge with this company and more to do with them worried about breaking FCC regulations at this point. Because
I was going to say the whole reason. Look, Nexstar jumps in, right? Okay, everybody's arguing they have interest because of this deal they want the FCC to bless. Well, Sinclair, as far as I know, doesn't have a dog in that hunt. Sinclair didn't have to jump into this. Sinclair didn't have to say anything and pull it, but they did. So, why did Sinclair do it? And it's, again, as they mentioned in the rules and Carr mentions in the interview, these local franchisees, you think of this like, Disney is McDonald's corporate, but your local McDonald's on the corner is probably not owned by McDonald's corporate. It's probably owned by a local small business owner, or some of them do a district owner, right? Yeah, and they might have, you might have a small business owner that lives in your state and he owns 10 McDonald's franchises, but he ain't McDonald's. But if McDonald's sends him by force, right, because you have to use the products from McDonald's, if McDonald's sends him a bunch of bad Big Mac patties, right, it's on McDonald's, So this is the same thing that happened here. These local affiliates, in this case, though, they have an option to say, look, we don't have to carry every single thing that you send us if we don't feel it's meeting the market need. And Jimmy Kimmel, and no late night television show, let's be honest, is meeting the need. The audiences for these guys suck. I mean, Kimmel's audience was around an average. It was falling rapidly throughout this year. I think he was down to an average of maybe a little over 1.5 million. But the worst part was his target demo, the coveted 18 to 49-year-olds that the advertisers pay for, was only about 150,000 of that. Is like less than 10%. So they couldn't sell this stuff. That's why all these shows, these late night shows over the years, watch the television commercials for them, the national ones. They're all Pfizer, they're Merck, they're pharmaceutical ads, which if we had our friend Kiss My Grits here, a veteran and expert in that industry, would tell you pharmaceutical ads are where you go when you can't sell to anybody else. That's all late night television was at this point. Now imagine local affiliates owned by Nexstar and Sinclair, right? They imagine the trouble they were having selling those shows in a local market where you have even a tinier portion of that core demo. It was just becoming untenable. And this was probably a really easy decision at this point. It was like, you know what? Jimmy Kimmel's going to open his mouth one more time. We're already tired of it. We can't get advertisers to advertise on a show because, people think, oh, well, these media markets they represent are these deep blue Democrat cities. Well, this is true. However, the audience that's actually interacting with advertisers, the audience that are the advertisers, are oftentimes, guess what, kids? They are the people that don't live in the blue city limits itself, but live in the deep red suburbs outside of it that those same Sinclair and Nexstar television stations also feed. That's where the money is. So realize it or not, a lot of that television audience is a lot more deep red than you think, or at least the footprint for it in these markets. Even though it might be a deep blue city, it's those deep red suburbs that are moving the money machine. And they're probably tired. They're not watching it anyway. The only people watching Jimmy Kimmel, honestly, I think somebody figured it out. I had it somewhere. It's something like, it was basically old white women sitting in the couch at night with the TV on as they fall asleep in bed. It's one of the most worthless
Right.
programs to advertise on, because that's why all you get is Pfizer and Merck. That's it. So, yeah.
Well, I
That's
got to
the run.
imagine they're splitting up like a third of the audience they used to have for one of these shows, let alone three.
That's why I
three.
think Jimmy Fallon might actually really win. NBC Universal has kept Jimmy Fallon pretty quiet over the years. He's never gotten embroiled in any major.
Well, he's always been pretty
controversies.
neutral, even though I'm not a big fan of his. You're right. He's not.
I agree.
Somebody
I'm not
who's
a fan
gotten
either.
too. And when
But
he
Jimmy-
did finally start speaking out, is when he started losing his audience. So yeah.
Yeah. And Fallon has the smallest audiences of Colbert, Kimmel, and Fallon. Fallon has the smallest. He may NBC might pick up 1 million new viewers tonight. I don't know. Because Colbert's still on the air. He's not off yet, but he's ending. Kimmel is gone. Those viewers are going to go somewhere, right? So Comcast might be sitting there going, crap, we thought we were going to have to fire Jimmy Fallon next. We might have just been handed a gift. We got Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel that are now going to both be gone within the next 6 months. Holy crap, boys. Watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the least of the devils, I guess you would say. And I love your statement here, and if you would go ahead and read it from X, because I think it kind of sums up everything you just said, is that anybody trying to claim that this is to appease Trump, or as I was trying to point out before, get this FCC, get the regulations to go through on that merger or whatever.
Yeah.
I think you kind of squash any of that kind of an argument right here with your tweet. If you want to read it.
This is it. I mean, there's so many other things Disney could have done besides the nuclear option. I said if the real problem was actually the Federal Communications Commission, then why pull Jimmy Kimmel's entire show? Disney could have said, hey, Jimmy, go out and apologize. And that would probably be it. This has happened on The View many times. We have seen, and I'll add to the tweet, how many times in the last year, 6 months alone, have we joked about how, they come back from a commercial break and Sunny Holston looks like somebody just shot her cat, and she's got the Disney lawyers in the IFB in her ear reading her a statement. I have been told that I have to say that my previous statement was factually inaccurate and there is no evidence. I mean, how many times Sunny Holston had to do that? 2 or 3 times right after the election with Trump. So anyway, my point is this. Disney doesn't just automatically go, we're going to cancel your show, right? They could have canceled The View right there. She's out there calling Donald Trump, an R-A-P-I-S-T. I don't want to say it on YouTube, but you know what I mean? And it's like, no, don't say that, because it's no. That's
right.
defamation. So she had to apologize. Did they cancel her show? No. You know why? Because The View actually sells advertising a lot better than late night TV. That's the secret. I don't think they're really losing money on The View. It's actually an ad seller.
Yeah, white women actually watch that.
Right, exactly. I hate to say it, but they actually make money on The View. But no, they again, this happened on The View several times. So Disney could have also made Jimmy Kimmel. They could have gone to Hulu with him. They could have redone the contract and put him on Hulu. Maybe they're working on that now as a streaming exclusive.
Yeah.
No FCC because it's Hulu.
They could have even put him on ESPN.
I was going to say they could have. I did that in another post. I said they could have put him on any one of their dozen cable channel affiliates, right? Because if you're using a private business's physical infrastructure, which is what cable is, Comcast goes out and buries cable to deliver TV to homes. Spectrum does the same thing.
Yep.
If you got Dish Network or EchoStar or DirecTV or whatever, it's your equipment that you bought from them and their satellites flying in space. But the public airwaves are the public airwaves, and because there's limited amounts of bandwidth in there, the federal government has decided, okay, we're going to be the licensors of these limited, very coveted bandwidths. You follow a different set of rules. That's how it is. Radio, television, cell phones, same thing. That all goes through the FCC. You got a cell phone. Guess what? All those bandwidths that they use for cellular service, the leases are controlled by the FCC. Matter of fact, you just saw, Dish Network just went into, they sold a package of cellular leases, I think, for like $18 billion, some crazy thing. They had the rights to it with the FCC, collected cash for it. They weren't using it or something along those lines. So the point is that's the difference.
What you're getting at is, everything you're talking about, including the internet, you technically have to go through a gateway, right? You have to be, in most cases, a legal adult to be able to sign up or get into any of these contracts. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why they're not regulated by the FCC like broadcast radio is and television is. And that's
Right.
the big difference here.
Any 10-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid, back when you were doing this, 25 years ago, could have walked down to their Radio Shack on the corner. They could have gone in, paid $10 for a little powered antenna, stuck it on top their television set in their bedroom, and
Christian Slater.
And that's it. And boom, they got TV. That's it. That's the difference, right?
The other side of this is like,
days.
watch Pump Up the Volume, right? Like, that is why Christian Slater gets in trouble in that movie. He's breaking FCC violations or regulations by violating the rules of not having a fucking broadcast license on top of all the shit that he's saying over the air, right? That's why he's in trouble at the end of that movie. And the gist of it is they don't really tell you what happens to him. I guarantee he sat like 5 years in prison and probably had to pay like $25,000 fine. That's probably the outcome, something along those lines. I would imagine.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you look at the closing.
And maybe not jail because he's a kid. He probably would have got out of jail, but he definitely would have had to pay a fine. Sorry, but yeah, as you just said, Sinclair would have got a get out of jail free card with this and prove us wrong that it's not about whatever. It's all he's fine, the money's fine, but I think you're right that the money isn't there, and I think this was a get out of jail. And not only that,
it was an easy go-to, and quite frankly, Brendan Carr kind of handed them the perfect the perfect excuse. I mean, if Carr had not made a public statement, then Disney wouldn't have the cover that they do. But the reality is that there was no reason to do this. I mean, look, even when Paramount canceled Colbert, and they say that was because of Trump and the FCC. Well, I got news for you. I don't really think it mattered, even if it was, because how long do you think a guy like David Ellison, who spent billions of dollars of his own personal wealth and his family's wealth to buy Paramount to hang on to a show like Colbert that was losing, as according to Puck, $40 million a year?
He could have went to Comedy Central.
Worse. Yeah, so this idea that that this was it's all Trump. I'm like, no, you know what? Here's the thing. I think a lot of these studios were trying to find a way to get out of these things without.
I think you're right.
Because you see what's happening is that, no more Colbert. Oh, no more Jimmy Kimmel. And all these people are screaming about it. Now, here's the thing. How many of these people on X right now or Blue Sky screaming about these guys not having jobs anymore actually watch these TV shows? I bet you almost none of them.
Well, and to kind of add proof to this whole thing, we have this story that just came out here a little bit ago too. This is actually fairly fresh. I don't know if you saw this one.
I do not.
Or no, this is from yesterday.
I gotta run
Sorry.
in a couple of minutes.
Actually, this is from yesterday. My bad. And I know you got to run. But basically, Bob made the choice. Dana called him. And what it sounds like happened was Jimmy insisted that he didn't want to apologize and he wanted to clarify his statement. And they're like, if you do that, then we have to make a decision about the future of your show, which is, in other words, says, if you do that, you will be fired. So what happens is that story we just started with when you first got in here is somebody from his camp is leaking this shit to the press. Clearly, because this, we know exactly what he was going to say.
Yeah.
He was going to play the fucking word game saying, I never said, that he was this. Let me read this. So real quick, he goes, let's look at the viral quote again. We hit some new lows over the weekend with MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Right.
Okay.
What else? How else do you read that?
Exactly. So this is how they, and this is the thing you got to remember, like THR and others are trying to frame it that they are putting this out there when, let's be fucking real. Somebody from Jimmy's camp got to the Hollywood Reporter and all the other papers. I'm sure you're going to see similar write-ups just like this, and they're going to make the same point.
Oh, okay? Rolling Stone already did. I mean,
you just said that. Yep.
Out there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, but let's take a close look at the section. The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. A part of the sentence is so blurry that your eyes cross trying to get it. So here they're trying to confuse you right off the bat. Kimmel doesn't actually say this kid is one of them. Where does he not?
Right. Right. This is all just nonsense. It's word salad and mental
Yeah.
gymnastics.
You could read it in a different way, but it's not what he says, though. Hollywood Reporter. Robinson wasn't MAGA, and therefore MAGA is out there trying to characterize him as anything else. Or even, who knows if Robinson was or wasn't MAGA. Either way, MAGA is trying to score points based on his politics. Now you're just trying to move the goalpost.
Right. No,
Past the
he said
original
what he said.
statement to the end of the statement.
Mhm.
So yeah, and you said Rolling Stone did the same thing, basically, right?
Yeah, I saw a Rolling Stone article, I think, with a very similar, if not almost verbatim headline to this. I mean, again, you know, there is the, and I almost bet you can go look at Variety and Deadline, and you'll probably find very similar articles. If they're not there yet, they'll be there tomorrow, kind of thing. And it's you know, oh, he didn't actually say what, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, but you know what? Here's the thing: Jimmy Kimmel has said a lot of crazy things. Jimmy Kimmel has made no bones about the fact that he absolutely cannot stand Trump. He cannot stand MAGA. And frankly, he can't stand the people who voted for Donald Trump. And he doesn't seem to be living in reality when he's got a show that has one of the most pitiful audiences on television. And it's even worse when you consider that 5 to 10% of that audience is actually the demographic that advertisers generally want to have, the 18 to 49-year-olds. There's nobody under 18 watching guys like Kimmel. So that means that the 95% of the people watching Kimmel are 50 plus, right? That's not the target demo that advertisers want. And the other problem is that, I mean, the advertisers they do get are probably often more small business owners, which tend to be more conservative to middle America, not liberal, probably don't agree with a lot of what Jimmy Kimmel says. And I'm sure, like I said earlier, people like Sinclair and Nexstar are just fed up with trying to fight to find advertisers locally. Because again, you got the national ads, right? So if you have 8 minutes of commercials per 30 minutes of television, you might have 4 or 5 of those minutes are going to be nationally fed ads, right? Ford or somebody's going to run a commercial for the new Explorer or something, and everybody in America is going to see it. But then you got a few slots in there where Sinclair and Nexstar will sell ads in their local community. And it might be an ad for a guy running for city councilman. It might be an ad for the local barbershop. It might be an ad for the local car repair shop, right? They got to sell those ads too that want a tight local market where those. So again, there's layers to this. And when you got a show like this that frankly Sinclair and Nexstar are, you know, cost them money because, you know, they don't get to broadcast all the Disney stuff for free. So when you look at everything and how this business operates and because again, some of that revenue sharing goes back to Disney, right? When Disney does its quarterly earnings report and they talk about, you know, linear television revenue, ad revenue, and all, some of that comes up from their affiliates. That's not all just, you know, cable subscription fees.
Yeah, they do have local ads. Yeah. And this is what I was thinking last night, especially because for those who don't know, like there was no easy way to find out how many ABC affiliates that Nexstar had. So Six and I just basically went through the list of every network they own, which is like 200 some stations. Mm-hmm. And we found all the ABCs and we counted them all, and it's like roughly 30. Yeah. We're guessing because, you know, give or take 1 or 2 that may have closed or changed something in the meantime since that list has been put up. And 3 of them alone were in the New York market, which you and I both know is one of the biggest markets in the country.
Right.
And when you got Nexstar saying, yeah, we're pulling off this show, like say, okay, let's say if it's, you said Pfizer before, let's just say for the fact, just because, okay, Pfizer says, wait a minute, you're pulling the show in those big markets? Well, then we got to rework our contract here. We can't be paying you X amount.
Disney had to write refund checks. Now, I was talking about that last
night. And that's what I was saying too, man. And I'm like, they're not seeing the bigger picture here. As soon as these bigger sponsors start pulling out, doesn't fucking matter that the little sponsors are pulling out. Because once you lose that, you're losing the money that pays for your fucking show. And this goes exactly right to your X post, to where if it wasn't about the money, then they would just throw him anywhere, right? He could be on Hulu. He could be on, you know, even ESPN, which would fit. I don't see a problem there, but that's not the case. That's not what they're doing. And
No,
when he pushed back and said, I don't want to apologize, I want to clarify what I said, they're like, no, if you do that, we will fire you.
Look, this is it. If the show was making money, if the show was turning a profit, this would have been resolved. This would work out. The fact of the matter is, this was an easy decision for Disney to just yank this thing and let it go, because who cares? I mean, by you realize that by ending the show, by terminating the production and all the costs associated with it, Disney probably just made $20 million more this year. I mean, that's how bad it is for late night. You know, canceling the show is going to put more profit in Disney's pocket because they're not losing money on the show anymore. That's the bottom line. So anyway,
yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, you got to run. And so check out Valiant later. He's going to talk a little bit more about this stuff later. We're going to finish up the discussion about it here. But I want to thank you so much, Valiant, for your time, because I know you're very busy and I appreciate it. And like I was saying to CC before the show, and I said to you, it's like, you and I are probably two of the most authorities when it comes to this FCC shit on YouTube right now that I know of. So I'm glad that you were able to make it here. Otherwise, I'd be kind of like, okay, I can talk about it, but
yeah,
you know just as much or more than I do. So yeah.
I mean, again, I just read and study over time for how these things work. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about it more tonight at 9 Eastern. Here, I'll be Ron Coleman and myself on Renegade Nation, the other channel. So
well, you take care, guys.
All right,
thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, and for me, my whole experience is basically I had to get my license. So, but that was years ago. So things could have changed or been changed in the meantime. Because look, I see some, people having discussions in the chat, and I'm not going to acknowledge certain individuals, but I will say this: I'm a free speech absolutist. I can't speak myself, but
right.
But with free speech comes responsibility, right? You can't go yelling fire in a crowded theater and expect there not to be any repercussions for that if there's not a fire. Okay.
Well, again, I mean,
that is what's going on here, basically. Yeah.
I will say straight up, I've never loved the fact that the broadcast airwaves are under control, but I understand why a radio wave is different than an actual product. Like cable television is like you're going to the store, you are purchasing a product from a company that you're plugging into directly, right? The radio waves are actually broadcast, like literally in such a way that you can pick them up on the receiver. Anybody can pick them up on an antenna, and they are limited in how much is available. There's a limited number of stations, but there's also the fact that everybody and their children can pick up on those waves, right? As long as you have something to receive them with. So I've never loved the fact that it's under control. I understand the reason why one might say there needs to be control, right?
Yeah,
because
and can it be abused?
You're going to get on, you're going to say a bunch of awful, even, you know what, never mind awful things. Just say, you're going to get on, you're going to say nothing but swear words for the next hour, and your 5-year-old kid can turn that on his radio and pick it up, right? It's...
yeah, believe it or not, freedom of speech on the airwaves does not include swear words. You are... regulated too.
That's been a point of contention.
I learned
but
some
at
of
the
that
same time,
shit the hard way.
I recognize why that is restricted, right? You don't want your kids literally to just be able to turn on the radio and pick up on it, right? Pick up on anything. Although
there's the other side of it too, with the responsibility of if you're broadcasting news and you have the trust of the people.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not a broadcaster as far as news goes, somebody like, and this is the argument with Jimmy Kimmel, is that he's somebody who's on a platform that people, a lot of people who may not, let's say, don't keep up with the news, they're going to believe him. Because that's one of the only outlets they have where they actually hear this kind of shit. And that's the argument that's going to be made here, regardless of what dancing around this that Kimmel's people want to do and try and claim that it was his opinion. And this is kind of the point I was getting to in the chat, is that's the thing, is you can get away with saying almost anything, right? Like, and I know CC's not going to sue me, so he'll excuse me for this, but I am technically breaking the law by saying CC is nothing but a big old queer who loves to suck dick.
I
See, now me just saying that right now, technically he can sue me. Now, he has to prove that he doesn't like to suck dick. That's going to be the tough part. Or I have to actually prove that he does like to suck dick. I can't remember which way that goes in the court. But that being said, it doesn't matter. See, in this case, Kimmel presented this as fact. No matter how he wants to dance around it and try to pretend that he presented it as an opinion, it doesn't come off that way, in my opinion. No,
I can't.
And
I
most
can't
people's,
prove
I don't
this.
think it will.
I can't prove this, but I've heard from elsewhere, and it strikes me as legitimate that the video of Trump was not even of Trump being asked about Charlie Kirk.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's the other thing too. That could even be kind of looked at as You're right. That's true.
Well, there's two possibilities here, right? Either Trump could not hear a damn thing he was being asked over the helicopter. That makes sense. Or they literally took a clip from months ago, and what he was being asked about the ballroom was not from yesterday. It's been going on for a long time. This goes back to last year. That clip could have been from last year. And maybe somebody has actually verified when the clip is from. But I don't know that he didn't just take some random clip of Trump saying regular thing to complete the quote unquote joke.
Well, speaking of noise, I think that's what he was referring to, that building and stuff, everything going on. That's why he did that.
Yeah.
Because I think he was saying this is why it's all noisy, basically. And that's the way Trump talks, right? He's not going to specifically say that, excuse the noise, right? He's not going to say that part, right? Which would make sense, but like he's just going to jump into, we're building this on here, which is something they were going to do for a long time, but we're finally doing it. And that's his way of saying, that's why it's so fucking noisy. And like you said, he may not have heard a question, or I don't remember hearing the question myself. So I'm not going to sit there and jump too far on that. But at the end of the day, look, and Karine, I see, look, and you have every right to say this. BS, this was politically motivated. Kimmel wasn't that bad, so ridiculous. Take time. If it was politically motivated, though, wouldn't it have happened sooner? Because he's been coming at Trump harder than this for other things. This, to me, the part that sticks out, and this is why I stand by this, and I understand why the FCC is getting involved, is because him saying that the kid was MAGA is pushing a false narrative that by the time he said it was already well known that he wasn't, and he works for a channel that broadcasts news over the air. It is going to be a tough argument for him to claim that he didn't know this, especially with his supposed, explanation that we just read through whatever source that they're claiming it came from, which we know is Jimmy Kimmel's camp, that's not what he really said and it was his opinion. At no point does his statement, and I'm sure there's many English professors that would look at it too and say, I don't know about that it's opinion. It's not opinion. He states it as a fucking fact. And he presents it in a way that is a fact that he's pushing the narrative that the media itself was trying to push all weekend long. But luckily for them, they're CNN and Fox, and they were presenting it in ways that they can get away with it because they're not regulated by the FCC. And I get it. You could look at it in a political way. I totally understand that. And I'm not arguing that some of the things that Trump has done probably weren't politically motivated. It's kind of hard to argue against. But in most cases, when he wins, there's a reason for it. And this is why. Because these people are technically breaking the law. And we've never been in this position before where he's not wrong when he says that he's never been as disrespected by the media as other presidents have in the past, or he's been more disrespected more than any president has in the past, because it's true. Because even some of the worst presidents we've had, the media won't say negative shit about them or certain things about them for this reason, in a sense that if they say something that's factually wrong, the FCC could come down on them. And that's not just for presidents, it's for just about anybody in general. This is just a standard thing for the news. You can't go and report the news as uninformed, as a lie. I mean, if you don't know the facts, that's one thing. Or if you're going off the facts at the time, that's another. But if the facts are already known and you're trying to present a completely different narrative, which Kimmel is trying to do here, that's where the problem comes in. I don't know if that's clear enough, but that's what Valiant and I were trying to get at here and why we understand this situation. You may not agree with it, but at the same time, there's another argument to be made that none of it is politically motivated, and it all has to do with money. And that's where I agree that when we were talking at the end there with Valiant, that the whole phone call thing, when he said that, I don't want to apologize, I just want to clarify what I'm saying. And Dana Walden told him, if you do that, then we're going to have to discuss your future. is more finite, basically, in so many words. I don't remember the exact quote, but let's be real. It was basically her telling him that if you do that, you're fired, right? Because at this moment in time, he's in limbo. He could come back. We don't know when. The show hasn't technically been canceled, not like Colbert's has.
Right.
See, that's the thing is there's a lot of moving parts still to this, and a lot of shit could change by tomorrow.
I think both factors, both elements factor into this. I mean, first of all, okay, and as an example, my friend works 50 hours a week, has 2 children, 2 young children, has maybe 10 minutes a day tops, really, to themselves, to herself, to do anything, to even know what's going on in the world. Like I had to inform her weeks after the fact that that Biden had stepped down, and the reaction was, "Ew, Kamala," right? Which is probably a factor behind what happened there too. But the point being, like, when you have only a few minutes a day because you're a regular person who works all day, and anybody who has a family, I would imagine to a certain degree, you only have a few minutes. Maybe you're not even tuning into Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe you're not even watching his show on TV. Maybe you're watching it via somebody who clips it on Twitter or Facebook and posts it, reposts it. A 30-second clip, which is even less context than you would have by understanding that you're watching Jimmy Kimmel on his regular show. You're just getting 15 or 20 seconds of him saying it, and that's all the context you even have about Charlie Kirk. Oh, wow, he was killed by a MAGA dude, right? And that there's nothing else to back it up. Now, are you responsible for informing yourself? Yes. But on the other hand,
yeah,
on that level of broadcast, you have to also, I mean, there's a standard of not pulling bullshit like that, right?
Well,
now,
and look, oh, go ahead, finish. Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
No, I was just saying the other side of this is also valid too, because from what we've read and my understanding is he didn't want to apologize, and he's been on the air for 22 years. Like he's an outdated program at this point. He is well past his best by date. He was never one of the greats to begin with, who you would say, wow, this guy really, we need to keep him on until his retirement day. This is like a 30, 40-year program with the same host. He's not that kind of level of a guy. He was always a secondary level guy. 22 years is way, way overdue for somebody of his level. Whether or not you agree with his politics, whether or not you enjoy his humor, he is way overdue.
Well, and that goes to where
coming up, and
yeah, that's where you go to the whole idea of that. If Disney was really behind him and felt that there was a reason to fight for him, they would have. But the money ain't there clearly, or they would have moved in. Kareen, I appreciate the support, and I respect you, and I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to give you my response to it. But please, chat, be nice, be nice. Everybody has a difference of opinion, and it's fair, and we'll do our best to explain everything we can. Trump said he was next. It's a comedic show, late night talk show. Come on, how are all y'all condoning this BS? So what, they don't like Trump, so Kimmel not news show lies. Okay, I get you're upset, and there's a lot of emotions flying, and I'm the last person who should tell anybody to just slow down. But that's what I'm going to say for now. Just kind of slow down a minute. First of all, I think this has nothing to do with Trump. And what I mean is if it was going to be Trump, then why didn't this happen right after Colbert? Then that would be more obvious. Because, look, sure, Trump, he may have been on Trump's quote-unquote hit list, as you're putting here. I don't know anything to that. I didn't hear him say that, so I can't speak to that. I'm not condoning anything necessarily at this point. But what I am saying is I understand what's going on. And it has little to do with Trump, or nothing to do with Trump, and everything to do with what he said about Charlie Kirk's murderer. And that's what I've been trying to say from the start. And I know he's not a news show, but Kareen, that doesn't matter because he's on broadcast television. You cannot do that on any show. As Valiant said before, maybe you weren't here when he was here. As Valiant said before, that's why The View has to do that laundry list of things at the end of every show now, because they say so much stupid shit that's not true. They're on broadcast television. They're not on CNN. They're not on Fox. They're not on a cable network or a YouTube channel or anything like that, or Sirius FM or anything like that, some satellite radio thing. They're on a broadcast network, and the same would be as if they were on a broadcast radio network. If you're on anything over the air, and this is what CC was talking about, there are regulations. You cannot spread false information. It's the same as yelling fire in a crowded theater when there isn't one. That's where the line goes with free speech. People need to understand that free speech does not mean you can say certain things in a situation where other people can misinterpret that or understand that in a way that could incite violence, spread false information could destroy somebody's image or career. There's a lot of things that come in with that, and that's where defamation and all those kind of laws come in. When it comes to television, you're specifically obligated to report the news because of, as is true, because known at the time, because that's your responsibility to the people. You can do research on this. It's all over the internet. I had to learn through all this stuff for my schooling to get my FCC license like 20 years ago. So trust me on this one. I know. And you can't just go out and say shit. Okay. You can say, my opinion is this. I think this. And then you're a little bit more covered. But that's not what happened here. Jimmy Kimmel flat out said that this murderer was MAGA and that the right was trying to paint him as anything but, and using Charlie Kirk's death as a political motivation, which the latter part might be true. You could make that argument. That's not the problem here. The first part of the statement is false. And him not saying, in my opinion, doesn't fucking matter in this case, because that's not his spinning around that. It doesn't matter because it's not an opinion.
And I think that's exactly you're on point here, because Jimmy did screw up, or it's ego.
In this case, he fucked up.
He fucked up. He, instead of presenting it in that more protected way, he actually just stood there and presented it as fact. If he just reworded it somewhat more,
there's no real way to reword this as any. That's the problem with this statement, and that's where the spin comes in.
The way he presented it, it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Now, I'll back up Kareen here and I say, look, I don't like Trump getting onto the internet and saying, hey, let's fire the rest of these guys. Maybe I agree with him. I don't think he should be doing that either, but I don't think that's the motivation for why this is happening either. I think this happened because, well, I will say 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe it's not quite as loud as it is right now. This is a whole amalgam of circumstances, right? But what he did still does actually justify a response from a legal standpoint. He was way too direct about the way he said it. He presented it very directly. He said that this guy is et cetera,
And this may go in and he may get charged with something, and it may go to a court. It's been years since, I'm trying to think of the last time there was any FCC thing. Usually it's a fine. And I don't know if there's even a court process. I mean, but I'm sure there's an appeal process of some sort. I'd have to go back and look. But in most cases, when anybody gets even remotely close to violating something with the FCC, like I did when I worked in radio, short story long, the place where I worked, the discs were a mess. The day DJs did not like to put shit back where they belonged. And I had a 2-hour show that was very limited. That was a request show. So I was answering phones and running to find discs, and nothing was ever where it was supposed to be.
Every radio station.
What I did as an idiot is I brought my CDs and my girlfriend at the time CDs in, and a lot of them weren't cut. But I'm like, I'm quick enough. I can mute all the swear words. I didn't catch all the fucking swear words, unfortunately, and I got fired. That's why I got fired. That's the fucking plain, simple truth of it. I couldn't argue it. I couldn't do shit. My boss was right. He's like, you're lucky we're not getting a $10,000 fine for each one of the fucking swear words that got through, which I think were like 3 of them.
You want to know why I got fired?
They're just fucking swear words. Like I can say here on YouTube, but I could not say that on the air.
You know why I got fired?
How did you get fired?
I was trying to get into radio for a time. I got drunk and I got on the air and I said, fuck the FCC.
Oh God, you're lucky you didn't get fined.
Well, exactly. But there's layers to this, right? I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is in trouble for what he did, but he's not drawing ratings. He's losing the money. He's refusing to apologize. There's a lot of reasons, and we're also in the year 2025. It's not 2021 anymore. And
the
yes, I
FCC
got
is
lucky
actually
that it
pretty
wasn't
easy to
worse
appease.
for me. But
See, that's the thing. You're right, because with him apologizing and them suspending him, in most cases, that would be enough for the FCC not to even bother going after him.
yeah.
But he's making it worse, in my opinion. And that's why Disney said, no, sit the fuck down. As somebody who's been in his position before, and this is coming from my most personal places, you got to learn to sit the fuck down and shut up sometimes, just like Tom does.
Yeah.
Doesn't help it doesn't matter that that's not what you meant, maybe. You may not, and the problem with Kimmel is I don't believe him. Because of the statement itself. There's no way to misinterpret that.
No, and honestly, that's almost better for him. Oh, hey, Sean McSwain in the chat saying, fuckity fuck, 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 fuck.
Yep. So you can't say that on the air.
I guess you can, apparently you can say it on YouTube now.
You can say
is that a
anything
real
on
thing?
YouTube except for things that you think you could. That's the fucked up part. There's plenty of shit that I used to be able to say on the air that I couldn't say here probably. Right? Like, I could probably freely have talked about, the vid back on the air, I'm sure, but we couldn't hear. Like, we even mentioned, I'm even afraid to still mention it, right? So, like,
Sean makes a good point. You can't curse on stage or he gets in trouble after the show. I mean,
depends on where you're playing.
Exactly. The owner of the venue, right? The owner of the company. And that's probably part of what we're talking about coming down to all the local stations. Is every local station is going to have their own set of standards for how they feel that they should run their business, and that's local advertisers maybe less
beyond the standards that you're supposed to work with, right?
Yeah.
Because Brian asked, why is radio so strict on words? Maybe you missed the earlier part of the show, but basically it's because it's over the air, right? You have a chance that anybody, and that means anybody, can get that broadcast as long as they have the ability to, and it doesn't cost you a dime really in theory. And that's why cable and everything else you have to go through a gateway. So yeah.
It is based on a logic from like 50, 60, 70 years ago in a sense.
Actually more like 100 almost, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean back in the day, even before, I mean, it's still the truth, but I mean, because the internet is a whole nother evolution of that. But I mean, once upon a time you could go, maybe your parents got you a radio, like $5-10 or whatever. You just point that antenna up, you tune into whatever station. There's no guardrails around that, right? No, it's kind of like the internet. It's like, welcome to this porn site. Are you 18? Yes.
Well, somebody who I know is 18 and I want to
I'm
welcome
18.
is Mark D with a C.
Hey.
I'm trying to remember. Did you work in radio too, or no?
No, I never worked in radio.
You have brother that works in like sound and stuff though.
Yeah, one sound engineer brother, and then one brother-in-law who does commercials. So
that's what.
video.
Yeah, I was trying to say you knew somebody or something like that. But yeah, so you kind of have at least somewhat idea of what we're going on about here. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, long time radio fan, and I remember when Howard Stern came to radio airwaves in New York.
Oh yeah, he always got himself in trouble. Yeah.
And my mom were in the car. She's like, "Don't ever let me catch you listening to that Howard Stern fellow. You're gonna go to hell, maybe, and he's not good to listen to." And that's when Howard was an edgy and not a sellout anymore. But the broadcast is much much
when he was fake. I like the fake Howard Stern better.
Oh God, and hide everyone in the chat. Yeah, but I mean, I don't like Kimmel getting fired or suspended in terms of free speech, but he's also the guy. I mean, I was only able to catch part of the show. I just got back home late, but he's also the guy who said, "Screw you" if you're in the emergency room. If you had we can say COVID now, I guess on YouTube, but before you couldn't.
I wasn't sure.
I think you can, yeah, but I'll say the vid. But he basically said, you had the jab, you can get treatment. You didn't, you can croak. So, so many words. So it's just and where were all these people when I'm sure you've mentioned it, when conservatives were going, they were going after conservatives, or they're going after Rush Limbaugh, or
Gina
all the
Carano.
people, Gina Carano,
And Kimmel did celebrate when Tucker Carlson got fired. And look, I'm not trying to make excuses because I agree with you. Like I'm an absolutist when it comes to freedom of speech. The only thing is with freedom of speech comes responsibility, just like Spider-Man, right? You know, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's kind of what's going on here is when you're on a network, a broadcast network like ABC, you have great power, right? Your reach is huge. Yep. And I mean, it just goes beyond that too, because everything that Kimmel does or says probably gets viewed more by clips than anything at this point. But yeah, so we talked about how he's probably losing money for the network, and this was probably an easy out for them. Because, you know, I don't know if you heard that, you know, he wanted to do some kind of public, he didn't want to apologize, but he wanted to do a public statement where he was going to clarify his statement, and Disney's like, if you do that, then yeah, no, we're done. Like,
I was taken out of context, and it's like, well, that was your own monologue. How do you get taken out of context?
I mean, the only argument he could make is that he didn't actually write it, but at that point, he still has to take certain responsibilities because he still said it on the air, right? Like that's the thing. It's a gray area when it comes to that shit. Do I think that Kimmel's going to get actually charged or get anything's going to really come of it? I think if worse comes to worse, he'll get some kind of slap on the wrist. It'll be like a $10,000 fine. And I don't think he'll get much worse than something like that. And like he may have to address it and say that he did say a false statement or something, like, you know what I mean? Like publicly. And I think that's probably the worst that'll come of it.
I don't want to minimize this incident, but there's 1,000 other ones prior to it that we could also, you know, take to legal matters.
Well, and they could, and that's where I think it has less to do with Trump and more to do with what he said about Charlie and everything to do with what he said about Charlie. Because if it was about Kirk or if it was about Trump, then and Trump just wanted to come after him, he could have done it any time before this.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And so this
was blatantly false, and I never understood. I couldn't understand why he would say something so stupid, but I can also understand why he would. You know, that was the talking point you had to put out there, was that this assassin was a right winger, and it wasn't because it's whoever's team this person's from, like that it actually makes a difference. It's like Charlie Kirk is dead; he's been assassinated, so. It's just hard, it's like trying to score points, and it was more the other side, in my opinion, trying to score. It's so obvious about what happened. Just don't record yourself gloating over someone's death. And
they've been getting careless for years now, right? I mean, that's why we go back and talk, even if it's just him celebrating Tucker Carlson getting fired, or everything about Colbert and his jab dance. Like this is, they've been getting more and more confident for a long time that they can't be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to some more of these super chats. I don't want to keep too many more people waiting here. Jason Webster has been a member for 25 months. Thank you for that, Jason. He says, Jimmy Kimmel is going to be able to get a lot of fishing time now. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine. He's still being paid. I mean, that part, so, ActionCom says, actually, CC would need to prove malice. That's true. That you intentionally slandered him to hurt him. And unfortunately, that's another thing that Kimmel would have a hard time. With there too. And then ActionCom says, like, Fox News is a factor anymore. Well, yeah, that is that's debatable. But I mean, that's the thing, is a lot of these news shows, they even try to double pad themselves with they're no longer, a lot of them aren't even classified as news. If you look them up, they're classified as entertainment networks. Yep. If that makes sense.
Well, especially if you're on cable too. Yeah. If you're on ABC News or a terrestrial channel, that's different. But cable, there's no broadcast standards per se that
but just to be extra safe.
Yeah.
But to be extra safe, they have themselves classified as entertainment. So,
yep.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
I was gonna say, look at Rose. I was thinking just Roseanne Barr when she got. I mean, she said something pretty horrible about Valerie Jarrett, but Obama actually got her canceled. I mean, maybe she should have been suspended, but they killed her on her own TV show. Quote unquote, killed her off off screen and changed the show to the Connors, and she was completely canceled. And no one, and whatever happened to forgiveness or saying, okay, yeah, I screwed up. You're just, like you said, he's suspended for a week, and but everyone's just become so radicalized. And Biden's government was actually going to all the social media companies and telling them to censor Americans over what they said over the vid too, and saying people were saying stuff that was quote unquote anti I won't say the words, but anti certain things, but he had the government actually going to these companies censoring what they said. And where's the uproar around that? I mean, it's
yeah, it's funny that the only one in Hollywood too that got uncanceled was James Gunn, who happens to be one of them.
Yep.
So like, yeah, Gina Carano still canceled technically. Roseanne still canceled technically. I mean, regardless of the circumstances, they stated an opinion or reposted an opinion, and they're still fired. And I'm not trying, and I'm not somebody who likes whataboutism, but in this case, I think it's a clear side-by-side comparison where you have somebody who said something that is not true, clearly, on network television. It wasn't a tweet, like Roseanne in the Instagram post like Gina, right?
Yep.
It was an actual over-the-air broadcast statement, whether it was a joke or not. As far as the punchline had nothing to do with the statement that I think is under scrutiny right now. And sadly, that's the problem we have here. But I agree with Goddess of Whim that late night died with Craig Ferguson anyway. That is 100% true. He was the last good one.
He was so funny. He was so good, yeah. I was listening to a clip from Johnny Carson today, and he was, I can't remember who was interviewing him, obviously a very old clip, but he said, we're entertainers. He's like, I don't want to get into politics on late night. He's like, then you get too I'm paraphrasing him. He's like, you get too self-important and think what you're doing here, is on another level. He's like, I'm here to entertain people. I don't think late night should get political. And same thing with Jay Leno recently said that, hey, why do I want to turn off half the country? So, I mean, I stopped watching that. I used to watch it all the time. Now, now I can watch Price of Reason on late night tonight. No, but yeah, it's they went so political. I remember I was flipped it on one night, and I'm like, it was a half hour of just anti-Trump stuff. I'm like, are you going to tell some jokes once? Is he living that much rent free in your head? I mean, why don't you rename the show just a political show then? It's supposed to be late night.
I'm going to shout out Price because he mentioned him. He got 300,000 views the other night for his late night show. Awesome. And I mean, we're talking about guys like Kimmel failing in the ratings. Well, part of that is because, there's so many other shows.
Right.
And if you got that many people watching one show, never mind every other show, right?
Yeah. And then Goddess of Whim, thank you for that. And then Gonzalo Bergali is not only a member for 42 months, the magic 42. He now knows the answer to everything. So if you have a question, ask Gonzalo. He knows the answer. Gonzalo then also sends us in a super chat to say, unless you can prove that the government ordered his fire, it is a matter between private parties and not covered under the First Amendment. And this is another really good way of putting it, Gonzalo, basically. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it. It's one of those fucking gray areas that I don't like the facts of the matter, but the facts of the matter are that you say something that is not factual on broadcast television, you put yourself in a position like this. And somebody who may know a thing or two about that as well, this is a perfect time for him to show up. Script Doctor!
Hey!
Nice.
I got off work early today. We wrapped about 2 hours early, so I finally.
So you work for Jimmy Kimmel? Gotcha.
If I worked for him,
that was funnier than any Jimmy Kimmel joke.
Yeah, if I worked for him, he'd be funny. Yeah, no, I was listening a little bit here. There's only one correction I kind of have to make, and that is,
sure, please.
Technically, James Gunn was canceled by people on the right, but he was fired by people on the left.
That's true.
Yeah. Because nobody on the left or like liberals or fans of James Gunn cared about his provocatory like jokes that he did from
That's true.
Trauma days. it was people like they are upset because he was insulting Donald Trump, and then they decided to search down his tweets and.
Yeah, he was a retaliation for Roseanne. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Alan Horn overstepped his authority, and that was all chaos there.
Because you're right. Now thinking about that, the whole point of that was probably to force Bob Iger to make the same decision with somebody he didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right, to be honest with you. I mean, I've never really thought about it from that single perspective before. I've thought about it many times in other different ways. But Action Com says that's why the Stephanopoulos lawsuit worked. Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember exactly what he got in trouble for again. I do remember.
Well, he was claiming that Trump was convicted of grape.
That's right. That's right.
In a civil lawsuit, and it was technically, I guess.
I think Valiant even brought that up.
Yeah. So
but the civil lawsuit's not the same as criminal, and that's the thing. And I don't know what's going on the criminal side of that. Everything seems to be.
And that's the problem with all those guys always constantly going, "Oh, he's a convicted this and whatever that too." Like it's like, yes, in certain terms, technically, yes, you're right in some instances, but when it comes to certain things like that, that is defamatory if he has not been convicted of the crime.
Nancy Mace was on that interview and kept pushing back at Steffi, and he kept reiterating at the same time. She kept saying he was not convicted of graping, and Eugene Carroll, and that was they changed the law in New York State just so they could go after Trump for that. So because it was way past the statute of limitation. It was in the 90s.
Right.
It's like how do you defend yourself against something? Do you remember what you were doing in 1992 on August 15th in a store?
That's the one I remember now.
Because I was a Jays game.
Was it that one, or was it the one in the mall?
This was
that one crazy bitch at the
department store. Yeah, Eugene.
The department store. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, because that crazy bitch. I'm going like we're one step away from people going, oh, he mentally assaulted me. He's like, oh, you said something. He said something bad and upset you. No. Just in my mind, he assaulted me, so I'm charging him with mental assault. It's like that's what that whole case felt like. It's like
that's the whole like when your girlfriend wakes up and she's had a dream that you cheated on her and you didn't do anything.
And she's just a bitch to you the whole fucking day. It's like, I didn't do anything. It's like, I don't care. You did it in my fucking dream.
You did it in my dream.
You fabricated that affair, though. That's the problem. You did it.
Yeah, so maybe you can be mad at yourself for your subconscious bullshit.
I don't know. Dream it so it's real.
Russell Hall asks, has anybody explained that to the new networks? The new networks?
Or the news networks.
Or you mean news networks? Well, and I think we kind of actually addressed this, Russell, so I'll just reiterate again. If you're talking about like CNN and Fox, they're under the padding of first of all, they're a cable channel, so they're not under the FCC regulations the same way that networks are.
They're not public airwaves.
And then the other side of it, as we brought up too, is like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. They're all not even classified as news. They're classified as entertainment. So they have another padding level.
2012 was it? I think they changed over. Because there was a couple
because of that whole thing.
Yeah. But no, that's true. So yeah, here's the thing why so many people get confused. So over the air shows can play on cable, but cable cannot play on over the air. That's why. So that's why when you turn on your TV and you switch over to like CNN or Fox News, and then on later on that network or with that affiliate network part, you get like an episode of like Wings or Cheers or something. You kind of think it's all the same, but it's not. It's just the cable channel is just showcasing stuff that you can find over the air as part of their package,
or it's a syndication deal. But either way, they're two completely different entities, and we explained it as basically the difference is broadcast is over the air. Anybody has access to it. Anything beyond that, like anything considered cable, satellite, even internet falls under this category that you basically have to go through a gateway to get it. Hence, it's understood that anybody, a child couldn't have access to that basically. So without having an adult. So like that's kind of the way it's looked at.
And one of the terms of basically companies being able to use the public airways is that they have to allot for a certain amount of time to inform people of what's going on in the world, essentially news. And those laws have changed every couple decades as well, which makes it even more complicated.
It does.
And then you also have I don't know if you mentioned too, the broadcast groups too. So Nexstar was the first one that said, we're not going to carry Kimmel anymore. And so they own
the affiliates,
the affiliates. So that's maybe people don't realize that there's a bunch of, and Sinclair Broadcast Group, there's other groups that own, all these stations, broadcast stations, and they license ABC, say, or the networks to show them. So that I think that was the first shoe that dropped when they said, well, we're not going to show them on our affiliate station. So
Valiant basically explained that it's like, you have McDonald's, but then you have your local where you go to, when you go to your local McDonald's, that's not technically owned by the McDonald's headquarters. It's owned by usually a district guy who owns like a certain amount of.
Oh, you're talking about like
business.
the franchise stuff. McDonald's might
franchise
be McDonald's might be the wrong example, but like a KFC would be more like that.
Either way, like he just said, like that's kind of the same thing. It's like that store is technically owned by a private person. They have the right in certain ways. There's certain things that, like, McDonald's say, let's sends down word that we're canceling the Big Mac. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's our biggest seller in all of our stores, right? Like, so McDonald's would probably do good to probably make good with him and say, well, we may be canceling it elsewhere, but we'll make sure we'll get it for you or whatever. And that's kind of how things will work on the other side. But you're right. Like, it's very convoluted and it's messy, but you have Sinclair, you have Nexstar that were two big.
Those are the umbrella companies of other affiliates.
Yeah, of a bunch of other affiliates, yeah.
Affiliates technically own the relay network that allows broadcast to go over the air. And then they have their own stuff. In fact, some places, hopefully, I'm hoping some people out there in the United States have this. In some places, affiliates will produce their own television shows that are only aired locally. And we're not talking like, like a home, like a CVS, like a home shopping network thing, but like an actual scripted show for entertainment purposes. They used to do that in the 60s and 70s. There's tons of lost television shows that were just made locally out there. And even a few today, I think, are still done. Every once in a while, I'll get a colleague of mine saying like they're working on this really small show that's like shooting in like Idaho and broadcast only in Idaho. And it's a bunch of local people doing it. It's like a half-hour cop show or some sort of like, comedy.
That's like the difference between cable access channels, right? Like, and PBS, say, because PBS is over the air. It's technically, it's public broadcasting, but they can't show anything. They still have to fall within the FCC regulations, as to where like any cable access channel, that's how they can get away with showing some of the goofiest, craziest fucking shit in the world and not have to worry about it, because they're not under FCC regulations. You have to have the cable network to get them. So, that's where you get the goofiest fucking weirdos. Like, I'm married to a fucking mannequin and shit like that shows. You know what I mean? Like crazy local fucks.
Like in New York area, we had WWOR growing up, and I think they had maybe some of those shows that you're talking about. I wouldn't know what's.
I swear a lot of those shows were just for like the queerdos to meet each other and like know where they're all can hang out and shit.
And we also had WPIX in New York, and then Channel 5, the Fox station in New York. And I think they did produce some of their own TV shows, because sort of like the New York City area was so big that some morning
WGN
shows.
did too, and that's how they got bigger, if my memory serves, because they like hosted the Bozo show and a few other things. So like
so it's and the other thing too that's in the back of these stations' mind too, they want to merge some of these groups, and there's a regulation where you can, I think no one entity can own, is it over 30% or 40%?
Yeah, and it's 30. It's 30 because they'd own 39% with the merger.
Yeah, so that could be in the back of their mind too. Just
it could be, but I think it has less to do with that than it does to do with them worried about getting in trouble at this point, because Kimmel opened up the whole thing for a big lawsuit. Not only that, they're probably getting a lot of pushback from local, and this is what Valiant was saying too, is that you're probably getting a lot of pushback from a lot of local areas that don't agree with this shit, right? And they've had enough of this shit on a daily basis, constantly. And I mean, it might, like when I went on vacation, the beauty of traveling, and I said a little bit of this to CC before the show tonight, actually, ironically, and he kind of noticed the same thing, is the beauty of traveling was once you get below the Mason-Dixon line, you notice a change in people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like south of the tracks.
Yeah, they're very nice, and you don't notice the same kind of bullshit you notice in a lot of the other areas, especially here in the north.
Oh, yeah.
The TV,
like
radio changes. Yeah.
Etiquette really matters down there. It's nice. But there's, we were talking about that. There's a hostility on the road, too. If you don't drive down there, you better be prepared for a little bit of aggression on the road. Not quite the same as the courtesy you find in person.
Well, of course, it depends on where you're driving, but sometimes people are a lot more forgiving when everyone has a certain rack on the back of their pickup truck. You tend not to give people the certain signals on the road,
Well,
give them the finger. Yeah,
and I think with this situation, like if Mark Hamill is even, giving well wishes to Charlie Kirk in that sense, not shitting on him. It's like most of the population is not shitting on Charlie Kirk here, nor should they be. This is not even a 50-50 thing. This is like a 90-10 thing.
Well, I think
I mean
Jamie Lee
95?
Curtis, I think, was one of the better examples so far in my opinion.
Because she's usually very, very outspoken, right?
Well, not only that, she has a trans kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she also has a heart. I mean, that's one of the things
exactly
that we've heard a lot about her.
She's a very beautiful woman. Like, let's be real here.
Well, I don't know if I can find the actual audio from it. Let me see if I can. But like, it seems very genuine. And I know some people will be like, "Oh, she's an actor." It's like, yeah, but I've seen her acting.
Yeah. Not only that,
I don't agree with everything Jamie Lee Curtis says, but she's aged very gracefully.
Well, here's the other part too. So when Lindsay Lohan was going through a whole bunch of crap, Jamie Lee did reach out to help her. Like, and now Lindsay's doing a lot better than where she was before. Because again, when you're a Disney kid, Mickey Mouse member, and all that stuff, they kind of mess you up over the years.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
Regardless
here's what she
of her
actually
parenting experience or what she's doing with her own trans kid, I've never heard anyone say that she didn't have a heart or empathy or sympathy for other people.
Yeah. No. I mean, she's always, regardless of some of her hippy dippy attitudes about certain things. Because I mean, let's not make any bones about it. She grew up during the flower power age.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind of always been into this. She's always been a very, very leftist individual. But to hear somebody who's been that way her whole life, and who's I think even said some shit about Trump in the past about how horrible he is and all that kind of stuff.
You kind of making her seem a little bit more like Jane Fonda. I mean, yeah, she was a flower.
She's not nearly that bad. No, you're right. She's not nearly that
she's
bad.
Tony Curtis's kid, and Tony Curtis was like kind of a middle of the road guy.
No, but she's never been middle of the road. That's my point. And I mean,
not by comparison, no.
No, and I mean, and you can tell in the way she explains this that what she's talking about when she says she doesn't agree with anything Charlie ever said, it's probably mostly to do with his, the whole fact that, she's got a trans kid and his views on certain things. But that being said, the problem with that too is a lot of what he said has been misrepresented.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I wonder if I keep asking people, well, you don't like Charlie Kirk? Ever listen to like more than a sound clip of him? Like, no, but he's horrible. I'm like, yeah, but listen to his interaction with gay people or the trans kid when he's interviewing the trans kid. He's a really compassionate person. He's not a firebrand, and yeah, he's a traditional Christian, and that's considered hateful today. So he's got his religious beliefs, but I think a lot of these people, I can't speak for Jamie Lee, but I think a lot of these people have never listened to anything that he's done more than like a 5-second sound clip that's taken out of context. And
or read or heard what somebody else
said. Yeah.
I think a good comparison to who Jamie Lee is probably the most like is probably Carrie Fisher. They both came up in the same era. They're both children of famous people.
Children, yeah.
They're extreme leftists, but you know what? You could probably chill with them and not have a problem, even though they know you're right wing. I bet you $5.
No, well, Carrie Fisher was. I mean, she's not a leftist. She's like old
no,
school.
She wasn't as extreme as and I don't think she would have been as any other.
She also threatened people that would call themselves liberal for not being true to the character, and also say, if you're ever abusing my friend or my woman, I'm going to cut something off your body and mail it back to you.
That's what I mean. She's never been. She's not the modern left. That's my point. Neither one of them are really.
Well, I mean, that's the big problem, right? Like even in about 15 years ago, when the left started going crazy and that we were calling each other out for that. Well, we had too many people on the right saying, no, you all have to be lumped into that. And it was done subtly, especially like during the Tea Party era. And now it's like, well, now every person has a little bit of left leaning has got to be lumped in with all the crazies that are out there now. And there's no one defending that side. And then at the same time, we see some very ne'er-do-well people claiming to be on the right who are doing horrible things and saying horrible things. And I'm terrified that they're going to use this poor man's murder to embolden themselves.
Yeah,
and the calling card on that is very limited compared to anything else I've seen too.
and people are talking about Carrie, and she might have been right wing. I don't know, like because they like Boba Fett says here she appeared on Bill O'Reilly show. But here's the other problem: is back then we weren't as partisan as we are now. Like that's the thing that's crazy about this, and this is where I don't think some people understand why this is setting off so many people with Charlie Kirk, is because he wasn't even a politician. He was just somebody talking about his beliefs and his feelings and his opinions.
Like the only criticism I'd ever have for him is that he talked more to kids than he would to professors. Like that's it. Kids are not prepared. They're not experienced. They don't have the wits to debate.
No, but what he was doing though was showing that this is where the rot's coming from, I think.
I mean, one of his idols actually spent his entire career debating professors and proving his point. I just can't remember what his name was, but he's still alive.
But anyway, let's hear what Jamie had to say here, because I found this very genuine. I think her emotions here, I think, are pure. So, like, I mean, like I said, you can say what you want about her being an actress. I've seen her act in a lot of movies, even cry in movies. She didn't sound like this when she was crying in a movie.
Charlie Crist was killed 2 days ago.
Charlie.
I'm sorry.
Kirk. Right?
Kirk. I just call him Crist. I think because of Christ, because of his deep belief. I mean, I disagreed with him on almost every point I ever heard him say.
Yeah.
But I believe he was a man of faith. And I hope in that moment when he died that he felt connected to his faith, even though I find his ideas were abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
I still believe he's a father and a husband and a man of faith. And I hope whatever connection to God means that he felt it. Yesterday was 9/11. I know there is video of his assassination. I know people who've seen it. Yesterday, we watched again these images of those buildings coming down. We as a society are bombarded with imagery. So we don't know what the longitudinal effects of seeing those towers come down over and over and over and over again, or watching his execution over and over and over again. We watched the Zapruder film, by the way, my birthday, November 22nd. I'm associated with this awful day of someone being assassinated on television. But it's, as you know, the Zapruder film is the only visual document that moves, that shares that horror of what happened. But here we have now these images.
All the time, every day.
And we are inured to them and we are numb to them, but they are in there. We don't know. We don't know enough psychologically about what that does. What does that do?
So, I mean, she's raising other questions beyond the point, but I think that what we were going after here is pretty clear. And I want to really give her credit for using terms that a lot of people on the left aren't, like assassination, execution.
Yeah.
So those are two terms that they haven't really used too often here. And that's
not
what
on the
happened
stuff
here.
that's being shared like that. I mean, one of the things that I was really grateful for is, and on my normal feed, not a single one of my colleagues insulted or thought anything evil of Charlie Kirk. They were all like mortified by his death, and they were sending out good stuff. And these are people that are in Hollywood and Vancouver and other parts. And it was like, okay, that's pretty cool. The only two people I know of that are not, I don't work with anymore, are crazies. And they said horrible things. I'm like, I'm glad I don't work and know with these people anymore, because they're nuts. But the other part too is, again, just like what Charlie Kirk was doing about being caring, and even though disagreeing with certain people's lifestyle and views, he was still trying to support them as an opportunity to be better and grow better. But the other part is, we also have to be diligent on our own sides. We have to start calling out people that are fake. If a person who claims to be a woman but is really a man and goes into a woman's restroom, we don't call them a woman. Yet, if we have a person that claims to be on the left or on the right and they say horrible things, we shouldn't be calling them a lefty or a righty. We should be calling them what they are. frauds. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's one way to kind of end a lot of the divisive nature behind this. But look, and I get the resistance on the right.
Oh yeah.
I totally understand, because I've shared a lot of the feelings where it's like, you know what, I get it. We're playing dirty baseball here now, but so were they for so long that who gives a shit at this point? It's the only way we're going to win. And but in this case,
what happens when that victory comes? Like, how
exactly,
do you celebrate it, right? Like that.
And normally I would be kind of cautious and very cautious when it comes around this thing, but I feel the same way I did about the Colbert thing. In fact, I think I feel better about Kimmel than I do Colbert, because at least with Colbert, there was that era of questioning until like South Park and some other things happened where you're like, yeah, no, I don't think it had so much to do with pissing off Trump as it did with Colbert's ratings and the fact that the show's losing money.
It's probably
right?
cheaper to pay out his contract.
Exactly. That kind of came to I kind of came to believe that. In this case, I know exactly what he said. I've worked in radio. I've been through the FCC regulation shit. What he said falls into the category, and he would have a very, very difficult time arguing his way out of this. And I don't know if you saw the supposed explanation that's been going around through the media that we believe that was leaked by Kimmel's party, because I don't know if you've been keeping up with everything, but the whole thing went down that Bob made the choice, Dana Walden made the call, and Jimmy said that he did not want to apologize, but he did want to make a statement to clarify his statement. And they're like, if you do that, then we're going to have to say goodbye, basically, in so many words. So like, yeah, so he was kind of shot down there and basically calmed down and told like, look, if you just chill the fuck out for a while, we'll probably bring you back in a few weeks or something like that, is what they probably told him.
Well, yeah, and then you've also got Trump is in control of the FCC, or his appointee, so he would have had nothing to worry about. But that's what really the crux of the matter is, in terms of equally applying the law. So it's been flouted for so long, and now there's consequences where back in the day we've had that big culture shift where I'm not a supporter of the ACLU, but back in the day they used to support all kinds of free speech. And the famous case, the Illinois Yahtzees,
KKK
right?
one, yeah.
So, but now it's shifted where speech that they don't like is considered.
Or not the KKK,
speech.
the Illinois Nazis. You're right. Yeah,
yeah.
We were thinking of the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. But so that's they call it hate speech now, and that's why on the right, and I see where script is going too, in terms of you don't want to become what you're fighting against either, in terms of free speech. So like Sean Hannity has always been pretty consistent in terms of free speech and not wanting someone cancel him. They tried to cancel him so many times, and it was mentioned getting Tucker off the air, Bill Ryan. They were trying to get all of Fox News off the air for a while. Remember what happened with what was the alternative to Twitter that was was it Parler?
Parler,
yeah. And they pulled Apple and Google. They pulled their app from the App Store, shut down their servers. Boom, you got too popular. So thank God Elon Musk owns Twitter X, because you've got that free speech that's allowed there. So that's I think the big cultural shift.
Well, that's the problem with the open airways, is that you have free speech, but there's still the responsibility of what you broadcast.
Right.
Like if Jimmy Kimmel qualified that middle part of what he said as my opinion, because again, like he's not wrong when he said like the right wanted to distance themselves from this guy. Well, they did, because he wasn't part of them. That's the thing. That's basically it. But he didn't say that part. He affirmed a speculation and conjecture at a time when there's already enough of doubt to know what the heck this guy's actual motivations are, and there's still more information coming out all the time. But because he didn't do that properly, and especially his staff writers didn't point out like, hey, this is how we have to do this to cover our butts. He's in this situation, but this doesn't prevent him in general, like going on the internet, going in public, being able to say that. He's still perfectly fine to say that in that part. It just on this network, with regards to the regulations for broadcast, even though it's a comedy show, comedy in quotes, and not a news program, it still falls under similar rules that have to be abided by.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I'm sure you know a thing or two about the English language.
Yes.
Because that was kind of one of the things that we were saying here. Because I don't know if you've, like I said, again, I don't know if you read that article or the Rolling Stone one yet that tried to explain what Jimmy was trying to say. Is that's their basic defense, is that this is opinion. and that MAGA is the one that's taking it as fact.
But it doesn't
They're
look like
trying to move the
said that in his
goalpost
quote. Yeah.
and gaslight the fuck out of people is what they're trying to do. And it's like, I can see why Disney told Jimmy to sit the fuck down and shut up, or this is going to just get worse. And this is coming from somebody who's been in similar situations, not like this, but, you know, in a position where I wanted to explain myself and, you know, somebody's like, no, just shut up.
I mean, the problem here is that there are some very good lawyers out there that understand the English language and could make a case that he is still saying he's still quote unquote quoting. It's like, I mean, what we have here is like Charlie Kirk does anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points for that. He that can be qualified as to the first part of the sentence. But the thing is that it's not so much of what you say, like, because you can only control how much you say, but you cannot control what people hear or how they
it's the
infer
perceived
that
nature
information.
of it.
And
Exactly.
if there's too high of a especially in a very poorly educated North America that we've had right now for the last 30 years, it's really hard for a court, for a defense attorney to argue that what a lot of people got from that was incorrect. Now, if this were to be said, I would say 1960s, I think he would have been fine because different context of things, different understanding of language. And basically he's trying to say like, we'll just use the real world. The MAGA movement in this thing wanted to distance himself from anyone thinking that this guy was anything other than them. That that type of a statement is kind of fine, but you then have to follow it up with, you know, this guy committed a horrible crime that you know, MAGA and many other people are saying don't represent what they believe. So that's how you kind of reaffirm.
Or you punch up the joke also by covering yourself by saying, well, of course he's not, but that didn't stop them from worrying about it, you know, and then insert your really sad fucking laugh there or whatever. But yeah.
Depends on what the definition of is. To quote Bill Clinton,
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
No, that's just the thing, right? It's like the vast, like, again, this is not me making like a broad statement with regards to like everyone on here, but it's just the statistical stuff. Like public education and even private education has been letting kids down for decades.
No, you're 100% right.
And as a result, like everybody's can infer one thing, and also it doesn't help that also probably people on his writings team are also horribly educated and not very good either.
No, you're right. And that's the problem with a lot of these cases is that it boils down to not so much what is exactly what was said or intended to be said, is what it's perceived as.
Yeah.
See, and you know, the Streisand effect kind of thing or whatever.
And that gets into dangerous aspects too, because what happens if in another 20 years and innocuous things that we find today are perceived as something horrible 20 years from now when repeated or when quoted or when developed in their own new terminology? It's basically like looking at what the crazies do when they say we have to look at history through the lens of today and then accost them and destroy them and rewrite their stories to embolden their hate and rhetoric so that we can feel better about themselves.
100% right.
Well, I'm sure I'd feel much worse if I weren't under such heavy sedation, but still in all, I mean, you've got to be realistic about this sort of thing, you know.
That really wasn't the one I was looking for, but it worked. This is the one I was actually looking for.
But it's still a stupid. It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. Yeah, it's just like a turnabout.
Yeah.
Spinal Tap is great.
I mean, and I bring that up kind of as not just a joke, but it's kind of true because that's kind of how a lot of the world is. They think they're smarter than they really are. Like, and everybody's guilty of it. I am.
Oh, yeah.
Most people in this room are.
I'm a genius in my own mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
in the last,
it's entirely possible that Jimmy actually thought that what he was saying was true because he didn't make the time to even bother looking into the news.
That's true. And that's actually a defense. But the sad part of it is this is where his other defense doesn't land, CC, not to interrupt you, but like he can't even stand on well, I didn't even write that. Right? Mm-hmm. Like if it were to go to any kind of situation, because at that point, his whole defense of I didn't know falls apart because that means you have tons of people working for you in a network that would be very well aware of this.
Oh, like, just say AI wrote it. AI wrote it. It wasn't us.
So that's the problem you have in this defense. Like there is plausible defense of I was reporting the news as I knew it at the time. You can get away with that in certain aspects, but if it can be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that you probably didn't, and you're just passing off false information like Jimmy is here, you're fucked. Like, and again, it all has to do with how it's perceived. And Script, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I said at the end of the day, even if the FCC decides to do anything, because in most cases the FCC likes to bark, but they don't bite too often. What they'll do is if they see that somebody's been fired and all that kind of shit, they'll usually let it lie, or at most they'll throw maybe a little fine at them or the company that they work for, and that's it. And that's possibly what's going to happen here.
ABC would get the fine,
right?
But yeah, like, I mean, I'm curious to see if a lawyer is going to get involved and how they're going to explain the rhetoric, because I mean, for the vast majority of Americans, it's 80% they think they're convinced, and they might be 100% accurate on that, you know, Jimmy Kimmel was reaffirming that this horrible man who assassinated Charlie Kirk was MAGA. But if there's clarification on it, and he's saying like, nope, he was talking about what MAGA was doing with regards to this person and not anything else, then that's a whole nother bag of worms that's going to be scrutinized for however long that whatever action.
And he does, and there is a little bit to be argued there, and I think that's where it'll fall into.
Where it's going to come from, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I've said that before, and I think that's why they're setting up this defense now, and because if anything does come of it. But yeah, so there's more clarification on the screen for anybody who wants to read it. It has to do with the actual intentional news distortion, and this is where I feel like this would fall under the FCC regulations as far as a violation on Jimmy's part, if they decide to go forward with it. But we haven't even heard. I mean, the thing is the FCC, this is the funny part from my understanding, is the FCC was being pressured to go after them, and once they heard that, because the FCC hasn't done shit. Not yet, from what I know.
Well, the head was on. Wasn't he on? He was on a talk show.
He did mention it, and he talked about it. And
but that's when that started to fly. Yep.
Yeah, so that started a big flurry that they wanted him fired right away. Of course, in Hollywood, but again, it's like, you know, and then they're also boycotting Disney at the same time, which is funny.
About time.
Yeah,
it's like it's okay to do that now, but like. We're over their actual program.
We've been doing this back in the 70s.
What's funny is because Disney Plus doesn't even carry Jimmy Kimmel, do they? Or do they carry him on the repeats on Hulu, I suppose?
Maybe. I know there's YouTube stuff, but that's always suspect.
Yeah, let's get back into these super chats here. We got some love for Clobbering Times from FKHC 2005. Thank you so much for that. Joe Pat says the following phone calls are real. The names have not been changed. Screw the innocent. The Dragnet spoof opened up every episode of a show produced by Kimmel, and he's tried to be a bleeding heart. Interesting. I didn't even notice that.
You know what's funny? The highest rated Jimmy Kimmel episodes were the one when Martin Short was hosting.
I can believe that.
And they were really good shows. I saw those ones.
I mean, what's funny is I can't believe that somebody like him didn't get the late night role.
He likes doing live performances around the.
Well, I don't mean him specifically, but.
Oh yeah, I know. Just
it's hard to believe Jimmy Kimmel used to be on the Man Show with Adam Carolla. It's like
is
two different people. I mean,
he started in radio as like a shock jock, if I remember correctly, and like Ben Stein brought him on.
Well, Mark, actually, you know, it's funny you say that because I can actually believe it more than you'd think because of the whole thing with a lot of these fucking people that present themselves as feminists. How often are they the most depraved ones of all?
Yeah, again, another set of frauds, right?
Exactly.
Remember the blackface he did with?
Oh yeah.
On the Man Show. I mean, my God, I mean, it was pretty damn bad. So I just, you know, I appreciate the girls on trampolines for their technique, but yeah, just I'm surprised that didn't come back to bite him when that whole we had the whole George Floyd you know, controversy or reckoning back then. But yeah, just that's what you can't stand. It's people being phony, right? You know, that's the worst, and that's what I think is so horrible for the people. You know, they're complaining now, and you know, where were you, right? It's like, where were you when this is happening? Because I'm for free speech, and I've never want anyone to be canceled unless you know, yeah, there's certain lines you cross, and in terms of people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, I mean, that's horrible. One quote I saw from someone that said, well, if you know, if you're not that upset over someone getting shot for free speech, you shouldn't be that upset if you're, you know, fired for gloating over it. You know,
Yeah.
So
I'll put it to you this way: the words "fake" and "woke" are 50% identical.
yeah, good point.
You're not wrong. Joe Pat 87 says, and his statement on air was at best cope. Yeah, that's true too. Mecca J says, unsurprisingly, Hollywood is defending Kimmel. Oh yeah, so like beyond what we've had so far, and Six just brought this to my attention too. Again, you've had this land whale that's been out there saying, "Oh, schools need to plan a walkout," and then you had fucking Tatiana Manizalana, what that fucker name is from She-Hulk.
Oh,
Out there basically saying cancel Disney Plus. So I'm like, oh, does that mean she's not coming back for Doomsday, huh?
There go her residuals, right?
Yeah,
She's
there goes her
forfeiting all her
chances of coming
residuals now.
back.
Or is she going to give back all the money that she made from the She-Hulk TV show? I'm waiting for that one.
I just find it
I don't
ironic
know
that
if she
everybody's
got-
like cancel Disney Plus.
I don't know if she got any residuals off of the She-Hulk show. That was produced before the
That's a
new-
streaming deal
new
too,
deal.
right?
Yeah,
So
the new
that's
deal
right,
that for
yeah.
streaming and stuff. So
Jason Bateman was going nuts too. So I wonder what's going to happen with Justine when.
those two are fine. Like they
those two are
I mean,
fine, yeah.
politically agree, but they're fine. They're
fine,
Justine
yeah.
actually put a statement out there that she said, like, don't tag me in anything that has to do with my brother, or you'll either be muted or at worst blocked, because they don't do that.
Yeah.
They don't get into their politics, I guess. So yeah, which is probably smart.
Yeah.
And then Penny became a member, or at least either a member or upgrade. I think it was an upgrade, and she became a maximum effort puppy. So we're going to give her the
Awesome.
Journey video. There you go. I wish I had Journey when I was down at the ocean. She could have drove me around in a speedboat. That'd have been cool. Thank you, Penny. And then we got ActionCom, who says, remember the infamous public access Ken Sanders show from 1990? How did that go on the air? And do you remember Letterman's parody? Well, if it was cable access, but I don't know. I know you sent me the clips here. I don't even know if I remember this shit.
It's not ringing
Let's
a bell
see
for
here.
me, but then again, I was like
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I would have been way out of my purview at that.
I was
time.
into like baseball and Star Trek.
Yeah, Superman and shit.
only create, a worse situation and you can start big digs.
See, that's the case. Hi, you're on the air.
Okay.
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay, yeah.
Hi.
Okay, yeah. So this is because it's on cable access, I think.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it's a public access, but it's a paid for airtime. So just like with those like late type things of like you can make $1 million by placing tiny classified ads in newspapers like
But
that.
I don't know if it was actually over broadcast airwaves, was it?
Most of those things usually are over broadcast waves.
It was sometimes it's UHF too, right?
Yeah,
Back in
yeah.
the-
You
I
buy
don't
the
know if-
time and you can kind of do almost anything that you
When did UHF come under? That's the other thing, because I don't think UHF was under FCC regulations until
90.
trying to remember when.
Mid to late 90s, I think.
I didn't know if it was that late, but yeah.
Well, to
you-
explain to you youngins out there, yeah. So you had your,
The difference
your
between
little
VHF
black
and
and white,
UHF, yeah.
So I remember my friend
It's
telling me,
not just a Weird
Mark-
Al movie, kids.
Mark, turn your dial to you, and then you can turn that dial with all the other big numbers on it up to like 57, and the UHF movie. But yeah, they had all these crazy channels that you can get, and it was wild. It was kind of like the precursor to cable in terms of getting things that
Yeah.
weren't regulated. And
As they initially started with most tuners, I think had like 13 channels on them.
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
two-
And then
2 to
that's
13.
because and then when they started getting more networks and channels in bigger markets, they seen the necessity to open up the band, so they opened up the higher wavelengths to UHF. And like I said, I'm trying to remember when the regulations started to come down, but you're not wrong now that you say that, because once you were past that band, like you could get away with a lot back then. So yeah, let's see what Letterman did to this thing.
Do you and Paul have any aspirations of being on late night television 20 years from now? If so, I wonder what kind of entertainment your loyal television viewers could expect in the year 2010. Just speculating. Debbie Steele, Austin, Texas. That's a pretty good question. I have a pretty strong feeling that Paul and I will have a television show 20 years from now. I don't know that it will be exactly like the show we're doing here, but I think in 20 years, geez, maybe. Well, welcome back to issue discussion period. We've been talking about the plan to return to the pre-1995 Canadian border configuration before the war.
A nutty issue.
Yeah, let's go to the phones now. Hi there, you're on the air.
Hi. I think the real the problem with this is that you suck, Letterman.
Hello, please. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, aren't you the guy who used to do the TV show about the funny animals?
Yeah, if we can stick to the topic, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm surprised they got away with saying "suck" in 1985, but yeah.
Hello, you're on the air.
Not surprised at all that he actually ended up being on the air 4 years after 2010.
That's true.
Oh, hi, Dave.
Hi.
I love the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for calling.
Most of the people who support this thing don't realize that you guys suck.
Yeah, this has been made fun of quite a few times. Yeah, I know what this is now, Action Com. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, they just don't make them like they used to, do they? And then we got Jason Webster, who says politics ages you severely. Yeah, just ask any politician. All who serve as president look ready for mummification after their service. Look, I look 10 years older since I've started doing this shit, and I think a lot of it has to do with that politics getting involved. I'm not even kidding.
It's a lot of stress. Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why I just get so upset with a lot of stupid shit sometimes, because my patience is just worn thin with a lot of this stupidity. I can only stand so much of it. Hillis Mallory's been here for 45 months. Thank you for that, Hillis. We appreciate the support. Action Com says, but Oliver Stone, Woody Harrelson, and Larry Flint told me they were the worst when it came to freedom of speech, and it needs to be protected.
Probably at the time when they were saying that stuff, maybe it was the case. I don't know. Things have changed quite dramatically over the last 30 years.
Funny thing about a lot of the shit that Larry Flint did would be under parody anyway. So, in satire.
And you also had the fairness doctrine back then too on network TV. So that opened up the airwaves too, and Reagan got rid of the fairness doctrine. So not directly tied to censorship, but you always had to have quote unquote both sides. So you couldn't have political talk. You couldn't have talk radio as it is today without with that fairness doctrine. So that was a huge huge change. Remember you used to be able to do like you could go on local TV or the news. They had a segment where you like a letter to the editor, but you could come online. And Archie Bunker famously did one on All in the Family, but that was how you got across, got your opinion across. And they had to have both sides too. That one guy for, one guy against. So
we had something like that in Canada up until 2007 called Speaker's Corner on one of our bigger networks. It was awesome. Every Sunday,
you could apply to go on. You could apply to go on, I guess, or
No, you don't apply. You go into a booth, you put in a dollar, and for 60 seconds you can say whatever you want to the camera. And if it didn't violate, or sometimes it might have to have been censored for violation of language, or in some cases nudity, but it would be broadcast like every Sunday for about 30 minutes or so. And it would be from people from all over various cities that this network had this Speaker's Corner in, and you can watch and find out what's going on. Google Speaker's Corner on YouTube. You'll probably get a bunch of old weird videos.
I remember that. Yeah. I went into the booth once. I can't remember what I said.
I know everybody's like, what? Somebody did nudity? Look, we did that. What was that thing where we were connected with like all these other visual things, and it literally took somebody, less than an hour to flash their tits?
When they had the portal to
portal. That's the word I couldn't think of. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that for Speaker's Corner in Canada, there was this controversy where a woman walked around on the street topless, and then a court ruling said, well, breasts are technically not sexual organs, so it's not technically indecent exposure, but there's still a certain level of modesty that's required. And during this debate that was being held, a whole bunch of women between the ages of 19 and 35 would go to Speaker's Corner and just flash their boobs. And it would be broadcast, and it was completely legal to broadcast it on Canadian television. And so they did that.
Oh, Lord.
God bless Canada.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then Hillis Mallory sends in 20. Thank you so much. Says, I like Renegade Nation's take on this, where Nexstar and Sinclair pulled the programming off their stations before Disney pulled the plug. This lost them ad revenue. Yep, I speculated this as well, and would continue to until they returned it to air, if ever. And not only that, to double the piss off, or however you want to put it, a lot of those stations, I guess, are going to be airing a Charlie Kirk tribute Friday night. So, yeah, so in kind of retaliation, or how we want to put it, I don't know if you want to put it that way, and they're offering it to ABC if they want it as a whole. I don't think they're going to take it.
ABC would take it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Andre didn't cover that in his video today, but I don't know if he dropped that yet. I think he did, but yeah. So with that, we're caught up on the super chats. Was there anything else that happened today? I was so sucked into this shit that I have
no
not been
clue.
able to pay attention
I've been on
to
a
anything
closed
else.
set for most of the day.
I did
so.
see, actually, that's not true. I did see that evidently Daredevil got renewed for a third season.
Yep.
Oh, I'm not surprised with that. Yeah.
And the other thing I heard was that Tulsa King is getting a fourth season. So we got bad and good news. There you go.
There you go. Yep. Well, Daredevil didn't do very well in the ratings, right? Or in terms of streaming.
I thought they'd
number
already
of eyeballs.
canceled it. Yeah.
No. Daredevil had better numbers than when they were on Netflix. So Disney says
That's
Oh, they
true,
did.
but
Yeah.
Netflix
That's
was
just
also at a different time then too. But
true. I mean, but even when you've scaled it up with the same percentage,
That's
it still
true.
Comes that is
what's
still
sad
becomes
is I
better.
think more people watched the Netflix show when they moved it over to Disney Plus though than watched the new show. I'd have to check on the demographics on that, but
I don't know I don't know if we ever got the numbers for when
maybe we
the
didn't.
Netflix Daredevil was on Disney.
But I know
Plus.
they always had it rated at like number 1. So like for like that first couple weeks after Spider-Man No Way Home. So anyhow, with that, I think we're gonna wrap this up because there wasn't really all that much else to talk about unless somebody else can bring it up in the chat that I have forgotten or missed.
No, I've got a post on X that's blowing up where I call Damon Lindelof citing himself as a.
Oh yeah, that's another one of the people that protest. This is the funniest one of the bunch.
Mistake. Yeah,
yeah. Damon Lindelof says he refuses to work for Disney until they rehire Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm like, nothing of value is lost.
Good riddance. Thank you. Yeah, be careful what you ask for.
Warner Brothers already anyway, so I'm not too.
Yeah, that it's such an empty fucking threat. So like, is he even working at Disney right now?
No,
I think the last thing he did was that race script that he walked away from or got fired from one of the others. So
no, he was pitching for it and they never hired him.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
He
Yeah,
keeps on saying like, "Oh, I was in meetings and they were hiring me." It's like I know for a fact you were not allowed to come back after you finished pitching your script or your treatment.
So he wasn't even allowed to come back there. So this is definitely an empty threat.
Yeah,
it's like after somebody throws you out, it's like, yeah, well, I'm not going to come back here again anyway.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, you're not. You dumbass, you just got thrown out. All right. With that, let's get out of here. Mark, what you got coming up Sunday night? I know you got your show. Anything besides that?
Well, Friday night I do late night Fortnite, so we do some
That's
gaming
right.
and hang out and just have a great old time. Yep, and the Power Rangers are on Fortnite right now too. So we always have just.
I heard something about that.
Yeah. Yep. So
what is this? Disney has control over them again, or some shit?
Well, Disney bought a big chunk of Fortnite, or the company, so or invested in it because I guess what Fortnite is what they're trying to do is be like a catch-all, like gaming and all different types of entertainment. So they keep expanding, the type of games that they have. So that's speculating that's. I mean, gaming makes more money than Hollywood now, right? I mean, if you look at the dollars in terms of what people spend.
But yeah,
they spend more too. But yeah, but it's a massive industry. So, yeah, it's Fortnite's a lot of fun. It's more fun just hanging out with your friends, right, and kicking back and talking. So, and the game is kind of secondary. We always have a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Remember Kamala Harris had her island in Fortnite, and no one went to it because she had no weapons on it. You just could walk around. So yeah, all these video games are trying to branch out into other areas to catch people's attention. Yep.
Yeah, and then Jason Webster says Disney has a recent track record of lessening the quality of acquisitions. Oh yeah.
I mean, they have the only track record of lessening the quality of acquisitions
for the most part. I'm sure there's a few other examples out there.
But well, what's funny is there are independent films of like the of Snow White and the other Brothers Grimm's fairy tales that kids like way better than the Disney ones. So
they did well with the Power Rangers. Give them credit for that.
For the first couple of years, and then they ended up losing so much money they sold it back to Haim Saban for half of what he sold it to them for.
Quality of the show was good though.
Production quality was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've said everything we have to say on this show, and we're going to get out of here. You got scripts on Saturdays. Anything else you want to plug?
No, I mean, my schedule's so busy. I'm surprised I was able to hop onto this one. But yeah, I've got script on Saturdays. Funny, it seems to be a comedic assassin script about a pop star about an assassin who decides to give up the life and become a pop star, a 90s pop star. So I'm hoping it's funny. Be nice to read a funny thing.
All right. And CC, anything you want to plug?
I'm just gonna get some food.
All right. You're going to plug your mouth with food.
You're pro food tonight.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. With that, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the morning show, kids. Bye.
Cute kitty.